3, 2, 1.
Welcome everybody to the June 12th Carpinteria Unified School District Board meeting. Will you please rise for the flag salute? Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just a comment to the audience. We have a really full agenda, and if there's an item you'd like to speak to, you just need to fill out a speaker slip over there and give it to Monica. If the item is not an agenda item, you can comment during the public comment session. Okay? All right, so we're going to start with our closed session report. The first was conference with labor negotiators and legal counsel regarding negotiations with cause. Information was exchanged and no action was taken. Item B3 was student matter, student cases 1617007, 1617010, 1718003, 1718004, 1718005, and 1718006. Do I have a motion on this?
Yeah, I move that students 1617007, 1617010, 1718003, and 1718006 have each been found to have successfully completed their rehabilitation plans as specified in their respective board-assigned expulsion orders, with the exception of student cases 1718004 and 1718005. I further move that the order for expulsion be terminated for students 1617007, 1617010, 1718003, and 1718006, except for the student cases 1718004 and 1718005, who still need to complete the rehabilitation plan specified by the board, with the addition of a weekly counseling for student 1718005 until the expulsion is terminated.
Second.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes. Item B4, student matter, student cases number 1617003 and 1617006. Do I have a motion?
Yes. I move that students 1617003 and 1617006 have had their orders for expulsion terminated, and they and their parents or guardians have requested that the records of their respective board-assigned expulsions orders be expunged. I further move that the expulsion records of students 1617001 or 7003 and 1617006 be expunged.
Second.
Right. All in favor?
I just had a question. Is you keep reading 7006, but it actually says 706. Which is it? 161706 or 1617006?
It's 1617006.
7006.
Okay, then there's just a typo. We should change, make sure that's correct on the.
Well, the motion is, I think the motion has precedent.
Right, the motion is correct. I just want to make sure that the agenda reflects the correct number.
Oh, you're talking about the closed session agenda? On the regular session, the number is correct.
Yeah, there's a zero missing.
There's
in
a
the
zero.
B4.
There's a zero missing on the agenda.
Yeah, on C5, which is the item we're on, down at
Okay,
the,
so just
the
on,
number is
so
correct.
it should match, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So we just want to make
Reflecting
sure
the minutes.
that's legal. It's really important, I think, that it be.
We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item C6, approval of the minutes for May 22nd, 2018. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I abstain because I wasn't present.
Lucky.
Yes. Next is C7, approval of agenda and consent agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda.
I'd like to pull items. I second, but I'd like to pull items D11 and D13. And D11, I believe, is being pulled altogether.
No,
Item
D13.
D11.
D13 is being pulled.
D13 is being pulled altogether.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
D11, we will move to business. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so D13 is not being considered tonight.
Correct. D13, we're going to remove from the consent agenda totally. Okay, so do I have a second for the amended motion?
I second the amended
I think you made
consent
the
agenda.
you made
Oh,
the-
sorry.
Yeah, you made the amended, so I can get a second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
This is a roll call.
Thank you. Roll call.
Maureen,
Aye.
Rogelio,
Aye.
Jacqueline,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
I'm aye.
All right, thanks. All right, item E, public interest reports presentations. We're going to start with E1. I'm going to give that to Diana. And we would like Mrs. Rios to step forward as well.
Okay. Good evening. This is a very special night. We're here to honor a very special educator, Emily Rios, who's taught in our district for 24 years. And this past year, she worked really hard ensuring all students learned English language skills as well as English language arts at the middle school level. So Emily, we really thank you and appreciate your 24 years of dedicated service. We have a small token of our appreciation. This is a clock that reads, Emily Rios, with appreciation for 24 years of service and dedication to the students and families of the Carpinteria Unified School District.
Thank you.
2018.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. And we have a rose bush that you can always remember, Carpinteria Unified School District.
I love it. Thank
Great.
you.
And now I'd like to introduce Ron Briggs, our principal of the middle school, and he has a few words about Emily. So if you'd like to stay with Ron, and he's going to
Sure.
read us his few words. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Can you guys, am I getting picked up here? Okay. I'm here tonight to honor Miss Emily Rios, a beloved longtime teacher at Carpinteria Middle School. I met Emily a year ago when I became the principal of the middle school. I knew she was a hardworking and dedicated teacher as she was in her classroom during the summer getting things ready for the following year. As other CMS staff members have experienced when they came on board, she took me under her wing and immediately began helping me navigate all of the challenges as a first-year principal. And for that, I will always be grateful. Emily grew up in Santa Ana, California, and attended private school until 4th grade, when her family moved to be closer to her grandparents. She attended public school from then on and all through high school. While in high school, she was involved in ASB, was senior president of club representatives, and she played both softball and basketball. Emily knew at an early age that she really enjoyed working with children. She was the one in her family who didn't mind watching the younger siblings. She began working for the YMCA when she was 16 and worked there for the next 8 years as camp counselor and later as assistant director. She realized she really enjoyed helping kids during those years, teaching in summer camps. It was at that point she knew that education would be her calling. She had been on her own since she was 18 and had to finance all of her education by herself. She began that journey at Orange Coast College. After lots of hard work and dedication and school loans and grants, she was able to transfer to Westmont College and graduated with 2 majors, liberal arts and English. Needing to support herself, she had to work before going for her teaching credential. She was hired as a bilingual sped aide at Cleveland Elementary School. After 2 years, she began attending Cal State Northridge as part of their teacher credential program. While in the program, she achieved her dream and became a language arts global studies teacher at the middle school. And the rest, as they say, is history. I asked Emily what she is most proud of, and she shared that, like many of our students, and I include myself in that group, she was the first person in her extended family to graduate from college. This showed her nieces and nephews that this was a real possibility for them as well. And this year, I've personally seen those same positive expectations of her current middle school students. In her classroom, she has more than once proudly pointed to a picture of a group of students in their promotion robes. All the students in that group had given up all hope of promoting that year. She had worked with every single one to get caught up, and she taught them to believe in themselves. The pictures of those students with their beaming smile says it all. She said she loves when former students come back to thank her for pushing them to do their best. She has worked tirelessly with our English language learners and newcomers over the years to help them acclimate, learn English, improve their self-esteem, and feel they have a mentor and an advocate on their side. Ms. Rios is always packing her students' suitcases in hopes that someday they will unpack her inspirational messages, advice with making good decisions, and the belief that they too can achieve their goals if they work hard and never give up. She has been a huge support for staff members as well. Some comments from staff include, she took me under her wing 12 years ago. She mentored me not just as a teacher, but as a motherly figure. She was someone who I could turn to when going through tough personal times. She knew how to calm me down. She put things into perspective for me. She never gave up on her students. She always had an open door policy, and she constantly kept in contact with parents. Her plans for retirement are to spend more time visiting her family and going out to lunch with other retired teachers. CMS and CUSD is going to miss you, Ms. Rios. You have helped and supported countless middle schoolers and touched the lives of families and staff. It takes a big heart to help shape little minds, and I want to personally thank you for your hard work and dedication. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Would you like to?
After I leave here, I'm going to cry. No, I, as I told Ron, I didn't want this to be my last year, but due to health issues, it has to be. And the more that students came to visit me, I didn't realize I had a whole family, and they all came, and they said, "You can't leave. We have 2 more kids coming." I said I had to, but they got a great picture of me, and I'll keep that forever. But I've greatly loved how our school staff has supported me and have been very supportive of our English learners and their struggles. And we have a great staff at CMS, and they're more than willing to work with our English learners. So, and for that, I'll be eternally grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anyway.
Any board comments?
I just thank you so much for the impact you've had on so many. I mean, as you said, the impact you've had on entire families has been tremendous, and I know you're sad to be leaving, and we're sad to see you leave. But I'm hoping that you'll enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for your 24 years of service. It's I hope you enjoy your retirement, and thank you so much for all you do for our children.
Thank you.
Ms. Rios, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, the way that you have taught for 24 years. And you had thousands of students probably, and they all say, good luck, and it's time to take a break.
Yeah, thank you for being a mentor, not only within your own family, but within this community, and showing through your life an example of what leadership looks like. So that is a gift you have given to us, and I hope that you can now receive the gift of some free time to take care of yourself. So, and we do accept volunteers when and if you're able, so please come back.
I'm sure your first test is going to be late August when you don't have to get up and you're watching school buses drive by and you get to stay in your pajamas. So enjoy your time. Thank you for your service to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
All right. We're going to move on to item E2, recognitions.
Well, it's that time of year in which I would like to recognize the administration, the teachers, and the staff, students and parents for a terrific 2017-18 school year, and wish everyone a fun-filled summer, and we're looking forward to another great year next year. We had wonderful graduation last week and promotion ceremonies that were just fabulous. Thank you all for attending, and we wish everyone rest and relaxation, and we'll see you in late August.
And we're going to stay with you for E3, Superintendent Report.
Great. I have a number of items. I'd like to begin with the Santa Barbara Grand Jury Report. In the fall of 2017, we received a request to investigate the decision. Well, the grand jury received a request to investigate the decision by the CUSD board to allocate funds from Measure U, a bond measure that was passed in 2014, to Maine School. After the investigation, the grand jury determined that the decision to use bond proceeds was an allowable use under the terms of Measure U. And the grand jury also found that the joint use agreement between CUSD and the leasee of Maine School complied with the California Ed Code. Another item that I wanted to share with you is that last week at CMS, 22 7th and 8th grade student leaders participated in a 3-day school program, Talking in Class, which is facilitated by Just Communities from Santa Barbara, to explore critical issues that affect their lives and their educational experience. They also developed strategies and recommendations and solutions to create positive change, and they presented those solutions to the school last week. And the recommendations that were generated by the students will be reviewed and discussed by the principal and staff for implementing school climate improvements next school year. So we appreciate the student leaders that participated, the CMS staff, as well as the Just Communities facilitators. An additional item that I wanted to share with you is that, and this is related to our dual language immersion classrooms at Catalino, UCSB researchers have been evaluating both English learners and our English-only students, and their preliminary spring data was released for kindergarten only. So they're doing research K-5, but this is just the preliminary kindergarten data. And there is 3 takeaways at this point that I can share with you. The first trend indicates that on average, the English-only students in kindergarten gained a full proficiency level in Spanish. And I think Maureen would support that with Macy's level. Is that right? Yeah, you already shared that. While keeping pace with the national sample of peers in the English language development. Secondly, the English learners in the kindergarten experienced a rise of 2.3% on average in their English test percentile rankings, while at the same time keeping pace with a national sample of peers in Spanish language development. So they are continuing with their own language development in Spanish as well as making progress in English. And then thirdly, both the English-only and English learner students' test performance showed accelerated growth rates in their non-native language when average native language growth occurred at a typical rate when compared with similar peers across the country. So we're excited about those preliminary data results, and we'll continue to share the ongoing results as we receive them. The next item that I want to share with you is about elementary physical education. And I want to remind everybody that the State Department mandates that students in grades 1 through 6 receive PE instruction for 200 minutes every 10 days. It must be provided by a credentialed classroom teacher or a credentialed PE specialist. The California State Framework of Physical Education describes grade level standards and gives examples of activities at those grade level standards and assessments. And grade level teams at each school site are developing scope and sequence for PE for 2018 and 19 based on these standards. The past 2 days, our grade level chairs have been working on developing trimester scope and sequence for PE, and I just gave you an example of 3rd grade. They did a great job. So they looked at the standards, and what they do is they map backwards, identify the activities that will be that students will participate in to achieve those standards, and the pacing of what they're teaching at particular times during 3 trimesters. So kudos to the grade level teams for doing that work to share with their colleagues. The next item that I wanted to share is about our staffing, and I'm thrilled to report we have hired a fabulous class of new employees. 3 B-clad elementary teachers, a preschool SPED teacher, a Spanish teacher, and an art teacher for the middle school, a physics chemistry teacher at the high school that also coaches. So currently, we are recruiting 2 teachers at the middle school, English and English language development, and a math teacher for the high school. So that's very exciting. Yeah, we're really excited about the response. And then another item that I wanted to inform you about and also thank the parents that participated. We met on a monthly basis as a district parent advisory committee. These are parent leaders from each school site that met monthly with me to collaborate in promoting excellence in all our schools. And they provided feedback on all the issues that we discussed. Tonight you're going to see the LCAP, and they provided feedback on the LCAP. They also provided feedback on the district improvement efforts. And I will say one of the major recommendations for the school sites at the end of this year was to increase school parent communication between schools and parents. And they particularly recommended that we have one school site that provides a weekly bulletin to parents through Parent Square, and they'd like to see all the sites to do a summary of all the upcoming activities and what to look for, and so that the parents are more informed or better informed than their students and not depend, especially at the secondary level, for students to bring home information. I thought that was a great recommendation, and we will begin to implement at the first week of school. And so I'd like to acknowledge the parents: Lynn Springer from the high school, Jessica Isaac from the middle school, Sherry Hultman from Aliso, Nikki say it again?
Yamaoka.
Yeah, Yamaoka, thank you, from Catalino, Christy Cooney from Catalino, Aaliyah Glasgow from Family School, Casey Gritt from Family School, Ruben Lopez from Aliso, Elizabeth Perlin from Summerlin, and Holly Manier from Summerlin. So we appreciate their volunteer contributions, very helpful. And then I have an update from the Measure U team. So this is very exciting because there's a lot of construction in Carpinteria. Not only Caltrans on the freeway, but at most of all our school sites. It's so exciting for students to see that huge equipment. So for the Gen 7 classrooms, the construction is beginning at Catalino, the middle school, and the high school. So the foundations at Catalino have been poured, and the sewer and main water lines have been relocated for the middle school, and the underground utility work is underway for the high school. Roofing projects for the high school in Aliso and the restroom renovations at the high school and middle school are now beginning this week. In addition, we have a new entry fence and gate, that's security, for Aliso. It is being fabricated this month, and which will allow for installation before the new school year starts. And now for Summerlin, the Measure U team is planning for the start of the process of applying for a coastal development permit with the County of Santa Barbara. In addition, the Measure U team is actively reviewing options for furnishing the classrooms. There will be a district-wide standard for the student desks, student chairs, and teacher desks. And samples of the items have been proposed by teachers are available to review at the facilities office. And the new furnishings will be ordered before in the next few years. And finally, the May 2018 newsletter is available at the Measure U website, as well as we distribute it through Parent Square. And that has additional information regarding summer and fall.
Great.
So we're very excited about the progress, and I'm sure you've all seen it and heard it.
Can I just ask 2 questions quickly about this report?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. The first one just about the PE. Do you know if you're planning to bring back a plan? Just with the 200 minutes, that involves roughly, I mean, if it was divided equally 20 minutes a day of PE or, something along those lines. I know that this is a big shift for our community. Is there a plan to bring a report back, or do you plan to bring a report back sometime when this plan is complete to give the board a chance to see how the PE was then kind of, like the results basically of all their planning?
I plan after first semester. So in January, that's our expectation.
Okay.
But I will say that the plan is really, it looks like that for the school sites, they're going to do 2 45 to 50-minute periods a week. That seems to be what they decided today.
2 45 minutes?
2 45 to 50 minutes, be 2 50-minute periods a week. So that's 100 minutes each week.
2 50 minutes per week?
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, it'd be a Tuesday, Thursday, 50-minute period.
Okay, to get to the
Or Monday, Wednesday.
To get to the 200 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then my other question, just regarding the dual language immersion, this is a little bit surprising in the sense that one of the main criterias that the board was looking for in terms of DLI was hard data, and it appears that UCSB actually was conducting hard data. Is that correct?
The hard data was not available until, yes,
right.
They are conducting May and June. Yes, during May and June.
So actually some of these results look very promising. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you think, based in light of this, that we have such positive reports? It just, it puts a different light, I believe, on the program in terms of having hard results, which is what people on the board sort of felt was lacking.
I think UCSB would say it's preliminary data.
Mm-hmm.
So it's preliminary data. I want to make sure I was. Did I clearly say? Did I say preliminary data?
No, but yeah, it's-
Preliminary spring
yeah.
data was released.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's preliminary data.
And we don't have any actual academic hard data yet.
Not
right?
yet.
Yeah. So we
This
just
isn't academic hard data?
Well, it's English proficiency tests,
Yeah.
and I don't have math, English language arts, reading.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have it yet. They
Well, there
just
were
finished school.
assessments taken at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're compiling the assessments now as we
So they
speak.
do have academic data from the beginning of the year and the end
Yes,
of the year.
I don't have it to report tonight.
Right.
That's what the point I'm making.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did want to comment that the biggest gains, though, were with English-only students. And one of our goals for the pilot were to really, help our Spanish-speaking families and children. So it'll be interesting to see that hard academic data later.
Well, and it's kind of interesting data because the way the classes are broken up, it's a third English only, a third bilingual, and a third English language. So I'm really like a third of these students were miscategorized or either miscategorized or not included. So that's confusing to me.
I'll ask. I don't know. You're asking about the bilingual students?
Well,
It's preliminary.
Yeah,
yeah.
but
a third of the students in each class are bilingual.
yes.
So by this data, they're not English only and they're not English learners.
I
They're
understand.
bilingual.
So you want to know what their test report, how their testing data is being
Absolutely.
reported. Okay.
They still could be designated as ELs,
Yes.
even if they self-declare bilingual.
Yes, but
Yeah.
we'll find that out. That's
Yeah.
a question for the researchers.
Okay, Monica, do we have any public comment?
We have two public
Okay.
comments.
You can go ahead and call them.
The first one will be Mr. John Steinman.
I just like to. Oh,
Set it up.
it won't be that long.
John?
I just like to express a bit of frustration on behalf of all the parents in the district as to the lack of a calendar. We are constantly reminded to schedule our lives around the district calendar so our kids will be attending school. And not having a calendar is going to, a lot of parents are just going to have to be planning without, and any surprises that happen are going to result in a number of unexcused absences. So I implore you to please solve this problem, and thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Wendy Brinkman.
Pretty much ditto. School calendar. I'm an incoming kindergarten parent, and this is so frustrating. I cannot stress to you enough that I plan a year in advance, and we have vacations that we have put on hold and our lives on hold, just like all the other families. And not knowing, and when all the other camps are ending and you guys are planning a week later, and the fact that we now have to juggle a lot as two dual working families.
Thank you. Okay, item E5, 2017-2018 LCAP annual update and the 2018-2019 LCAP goals.
So the LCAP is 72 pages, but I don't think I'll go through each page.
Thank you.
think what we'll do
Just give
is
us the highlights.
I'm going to give you the highlights. So let's start with
We
the
have
next.
in the past, though.
We have.
Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to remind everyone give you a context for why we're developing the LCAP, Local Control Accountability Plan. So it was state mandated as of 2014. It's a 3-year plan. We're in year 2. And the effort and the purpose of this plan is to align the budget and the resources to our district priorities system-wide. So essentially, we want to align all our resources to increase student achievement and also to support the student well-being. And we have, as I said, a 3-year plan with annual revisions. We're now in year 2. It must reflect the resource allocations that are aligned to our district goals or priorities. The state requires us to respond to 8 state priorities, which I'll discuss in just a minute. And you'll recall that every November you see a single plan for student achievement developed by each school site, and that is developed from the LCAP. So the LCAP provides the umbrella for the district, and then each school site works with their school site councils to develop their single school plan for student achievement. And the key focus is on economically disadvantaged students, English learners, and foster youth. And you'll see when we get to demographics that 63% of our population is economically disadvantaged, 37% are English learners, and we have no foster youth. So the 8 state priorities are related to student achievement, which for us, we're particularly focused in English language proficiency, English language arts, and math. The second priority is other student outcomes, which is related to making sure that that there's equity in curriculum that we're offering and that teachers are provided professional learning. The implementation of the state standards, so we are following all the state frameworks as well as state standards in the content areas. Parent involvement, student engagement, school climate, and what they consider basic, and those are basic conditions of learning, and that is particularly related to teacher assignment and equity, professional learning, and resource alignment, as well as highly qualified teachers. So this data is from the fall 2017 California Department of Education dashboard, which can be found at www.californiaschooldashboard.org. It's a year old. So the enrollment is listed as 2,269, and right now we have 2,170. However, the demographics percentages remain similar. So English learners, 37%, socioeconomically disadvantaged, 63%, students with disabilities, 10%, Hispanic, 73%, and white, 21%. Okay, so the first area that we want to look at is we want to look at our assessment data, student achievement. Where are we currently and where do we want to be? So they call this the 5x5. I don't know why 5x5, because it's really 6x6. But they call it the 5x5. Why do they? Anyways, they call it the 5x5, but you'll see that there's a Y and X axis, and the Y axis is performance levels. So we want to be medium, high, or very high. The x-axis is about improvement, so we want to be maintained, increased, or increased. And it's color-coded for your, to read it easily, for user, to be user-friendly. And you do not want to be in the orange or red for any group of student. And you do not want to be on the first 2 boxes of declined significantly and declined, even if you're in yellow. So really what you want to be is you want to be in blue and green and yellow to the right. Does that make sense? So you want to be in the far right quadrant, upper far right. You really want to be yellow and green for all students. So what I really like about this diagram is that it really clearly identifies your subgroups of students that need particular focus and attention. And you can see that in English language arts, all of our students, where it says all students, well, it says that, we're a medium, so we're pretty much all students are functioning close to state level, but we've not made progress. You see, it says declined. We've not increased. So we want to be further to the right for that. But you'll also see that in the orange, we have socioeconomically disadvantaged and Hispanic students, as well as English learners. And that's low achievement, not acceptable. So those are groups that we want to particularly focus on. And then the second chart associated with this first chart, you'll see that they have pie graphs, and you'll see that it's divided into 5, and you want at least to be 4 or 5, and the color coding. So you do not want to be in orange and red at all, and yellow only if you're making progress. And you'll see our yellows, we weren't making progress for some subgroups. You'll see why, if you look at the number of students, we have very few represented in the other student subgroups, so that's why the state only reflects the population and when you have 20 or more in the subgroups.
Diana,
Yes.
really quick, does this reflect, I know this data just came out, is this data taken from spring 2016? Like, how far is the lag time?
Yes.
So this
It's
is
2
a year
years.
old?
This is 2017 data. This is 2017.
Because we're in 2018.
Yeah, it's a year old.
Okay.
It's a year old. So
This is last year's.
last year's data.
Okay.
Yes. So the students just took the state test, and we'll get those results in September, which is curious because the LCAP is due this month. You'd think that you'd wait until but I'm not commenting on the timeline of the LCAP. Okay, so let's move to math. Oh, let me remind you, back in English Language Arts, overall our students were performing about 50%. Remember, we focused on the district goals, 5th and 8th and 11th grade at 50%. And our district goal is to move that up to more than 60% or higher. Now we're at math. And you can see in math that, again, that all of our students are performing low, although they made progress. That's the good news. You see they're in that yellow square, but they made progress, but they're still low. So that's not good enough. And that, again, that was below 50%. And you'll see that in the next chart, you can see that we've got a lot of yellow and orange. So we need to focus on math for all groups, especially special ed students. And then if we look at our English learner progress, we're 75%. And again, we want that to be higher. It should be 85% or higher are making progress.
Is this reclassification?
No, this is progress on their CELT.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. The great news, though, is graduation. So our good news is that we have close to 97% of our students graduating. And it's all subgroups. You see all the subgroups are in the green and the blue. So that's good news. However, related to that is the next academic indicator, and that's college and career. And so that is the percentage of students that have completed the A to G requirements, and that's prepared, and that's only 43.2%. So that you'll notice that approaching prepared is 27%. So our job is to move that 27% to the prepared. More than 70% should be prepared with A and G requirements.
So Diana, basically,
Yes.
29% of students are not prepared, correct?
30%.
30%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Seems odd. Huh?
Pardon me?
Seems odd.
Odd?
Ah.
Well, it means 30% have not completed the A to G requirements for the University of California.
So once they do that, then
Yes, but they didn't take the right courses for that.
They're already graduated.
They're already graduated. So that means that we have to do a better job, K-8, of preparing them so they feel like they can take the A to G courses. And really the focus is on the approaching prepared, that percentage, 27%. Move that over. The next area for evaluation is school climate and student well-being, and that's student engagement. And you'll notice that this is the worst measure we have is suspensions, and this is absolutely unacceptable for all students. So we've worked hard this year with implementing more positive behavior programs in classrooms and school-wide, but definitely not enough. So that is one of our focus areas for next year. And you'll see that in the LCAP, that we're aligning resources to provide a continuous improvement effort with using training from AHA from grades 6 through 12, as well as implementing a social skills program in grades TK through 5, as well as at the middle school, they're implementing positive behavior intervention strategies and focusing on improving classroom management strategies, because that's where the bulk of suspensions occur, is at the middle school.
For the suspension 5x5 increase is a bad thing, right? You want it to be decreased.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, yes,
They haven't adjusted it, so the fact
Yes.
that we're in the red increase.
yes. Yeah, yeah. We're in the red. Not good. And this is related to the next data that I want to show you, and this is from our California Healthy Kids Survey. Next slide. Thanks. Okay, so you recall that every year our students and our parents and our staff participate in the Healthy Kids Survey. And this was some key indicators for school climate. And look at the range. You'll notice that, and this related to suspension, academic motivation, it's all in the 80%. That's really low. That should be 90. All the responses in here should be 90% or higher. So you'll see from grades 5 through 11, it's the question for students is how, are you motivated to participate in your academic work? How motivated are you in school? That academic motivation is a very low score. That's not acceptable. And caring adults in school, 7th grade or 9th grade, that should be 90%. It should be 100%, but at least we need to be at 90% or higher. The good news is feeling safe at school. The students feel very safe at school, so that's good. What's not good is clean and tidy. Schools, that is not acceptable. So there's some work there. And then we have similar data from parents, some key indicators. And if you see, school provides opportunities for meaningful student participation, and that's at 79%, not acceptable, as well as clean and well-maintained, 79%. So we definitely have some work to do. Definitely have some work to do. And that's reflected in the LCAP, the goals. So now we'll turn to our goals. So you will recognize these goals because these are the goals that that we continue to work on, and that is we need more than 60% in English language arts, more than 50% in math, more than 20% of our English learners will be redesignated, and more than 80% of our English learners will be proficient. That's the academic goal. And then for school climate, all students actively engage in learning. So that's the academic motivation, and participate in a positive school culture in partnership with parents. So that we expect that the Healthy Kids Survey responses will be at a 90% rate or higher. And we think that for safety and respectful, that should be 95%. Average daily attendance should be 95% or higher. Truancy rates and chronic absenteeism should be less than 5%. Should be no dropout rate. Suspension rate should be less than 1%. Should be no expulsions. And at parent participation, it should be at least 60% or more at the school sites for parent conferences and back to school night and open house events. So because these are our outcomes, all the activities and the LCAP are designed to help us meet these outcomes. And then goal 3 is directly related to students graduating from high school, college, and career ready. So if A to G readiness is 43%, we want it 50% or higher. So I think it's a 3-year project where we'll get to 75% or more in 3 years. 100% of our seniors should be graduating from high school. Both our CTE and AP honors courses should have 50% or higher enrollment. And demonstrating college preparedness, 75%. And then facilities, well, it should be 100%, but I did say 95% of students and staff should report our schools are clean and well maintained. There's no reason why that's not at a higher rate. And specifically, what we're doing for that particular action is that custodians will now report to their school site principals. They'll be supervised by their principals. So we think that with their closer alignment about what the expectations are on a daily, weekly basis, there'll be improvement in the cleanliness. So that's the kind of like the major outline of the LCAP. Does that seem what you would expect, reasonable based on our assessments and our assessment data and the information from the surveys and the state data?
Do you want to highlight any strategies out of the 72-page document?
Oh, sure. So let's talk about talk about English language arts first. So in English language arts, we've adopted a new English language arts curriculum that will be implemented K to 5 that has specific English language development lessons and a 30-minute designated period for ELD. In addition, we have every 6-week assessments that we're monitoring student progress and that we meet at grade level teams to determine what the interventions will be if students aren't making progress. And we have reading intervention support at at all the elementary schools. And then at the middle school, we will be implementing electives in art and student body leadership, ASB and leadership, social skill development, in multimedia and technology, as well as Spanish. And the class sizes should be smaller in English language arts at the middle school as well. And they will also have support in English language development. And then at the high school, we have the after-school program that provides tutoring. Both of the middle school and high school provide tutoring in English language arts. We're also going to implement a primary program in which the kindergarten class size is reduced to an average of 20 to 1 with support with full-time instructional assistants, and it'll be a full-day K. So with all those supports in place, we do believe that will increase the reading proficiency scores, especially by 3rd grade. Okay. And then for math, it's very similar, although we're in a 2nd year of our program, and we monitor student progress through those assessments that are in the Bridges program, and we do have math support for students who are not making progress. So we think that if you monitor the progress of the students, we'll have more students participating in grade level. And for special education, it's a focus area, students with disabilities, so that we are doing co-teaching with special educators and classroom teachers at the elementary and math teachers at the middle school, which will make a big difference in that math teachers will actually be teaching the math, supported by special ed teachers, so we won't rely on special ed teachers to teach the direct instruction of math.
And I think you had mentioned in terms of school climate that restorative approaches training started or is about to start? Or
Yes, so we've done several things. One is we started with, as I said, the social skills curriculum. It's TK to 12. TK to 5 will be a second step. It's called Second Step. It'll be implemented, which is like it's a weekly program, and so at the first beginning of the week, it's 35 minutes, and then each day it's about 5 or 10 minutes to support the concepts of social skills. Santa Barbara uses it, Goleta uses it, Ventura Unified, so and they found good success with that. And then at the secondary level, which I'm really excited about, is the middle school is going to have an advisory period that meets every day, and so 20, in an advisory period, you have about 20 students that are connected with one of the classroom teachers or a teacher, and they will be using the skills they've learned from the AHA training, Attitude, Harmony, and Achievement, which is a very successful program at the high school, and that it'll be middle school will participate in trainings, and they even have a program where they're peacemakers?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, peacemakers, in which they'll be involved in that at the middle school level. So I think we'll see a change at the middle school based on that training. So those are just some examples of what you'll find in the LCAP that we're supporting.
I just want to say congratulations and thank you to all the many people that worked on this, because I know this is kind of the nitty gritty of education and why so many of us are interested in this. And if you just look at this document, there's a lot of details and pieces to it. I did notice a lot. I know that you had said this was a draft, but I did notice a lot of grammatical errors, which as a writer stand out to me. So I hope that those are addressed, and I won't bother noting any of them because I'm sure there'll be. But I guess the one outstanding one is just a question over the number of students, which was different in the presentation.
Yes.
And then you quoted a different number. You said we had 2170. So I'm sure that'll all get squared away. Yeah. But the two pieces that that kind of stand out to me just in a preliminary understanding of this, because I think we could all go deeper and deeper. But just based on the LCAP as it stands and the data that we've been given, the piece that really strikes me is the ongoing achievement gap between our white and Latino population, but also our socioeconomically disadvantaged students and our non-socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And that's a big concept to wrap our heads around, and I think a worthy cause. And one thing I've noticed is I haven't seen, maybe because it's tricky and it's hard, I don't see our programs trying to tackle that specific area. And I think one way that it could be easily done is if some of these LCAP goals were tied to, if that was part of the goals of the LCAP, meaning like you want to decrease the distance between different groups. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes. I think our philosophy is when you have a rising tide, it all boats rise.
Well, that's actually not so. Anyway, so one thing.
May I just finish?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
sure. Sorry.
So I think you make a really good point. I just want to point out though, it's 63 to 67% of our students.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our whole student population.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really focused on each and every student being successful. And the piece that I failed to remind everybody is that we have after-school programs that are predominantly our socioeconomically disadvantaged students participate in.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the first hour is designed for reading intervention,
Mm-hmm.
and we use particular software programs for the reading and math. So that was the piece that that is also part of the LCAP.
Well, just in terms of the achievement gap, there are specific. If that's a goal, there are programs that specifically target that in desired outcome. And the reason I first became interested in the dual language immersion program, even before having kids, was my interest in the achievement gap across education across the country. And dual language immersion programs, regardless of language, regardless of neighborhood, they're one of the few programs that they have found that decreases the achievement gap. And they found that the reason why they do that is because they encourage. It's actually a socioeconomic thing. They found that programs that attract a wide range of socioeconomic students and push on them academically, those are the ones that have been found to best or decrease the achievement gap. So I'm not saying that DLI is the answer to everything, but part of the reason I support DLI so strongly is because it's a cost-effective program that decreases the achievement gap by inducing and bringing together students across the socioeconomic spectrum.
We do have the AVID program as well at the middle school and high school, and that's particularly designed for decreasing the achievement gap. And
Great.
we have over 100 students that participate.
Great. The second piece is just around I was kind of surprised by the numbers around facilities are updated and well maintained for all students and staff. And I think we could easily say, well, we're getting all this Measure U money. We're gonna have these brand new facilities. However, we all know that a facility. I mean, we can see examples of it. I won't bother anyone, but there's examples in this town of beautiful facilities. If they're not well maintained, they decline rapidly. And so, I would really like us to be thinking now about how to maintain and beautify and keep in proper working order the facilities that we have now and how we're going to continue them. And maybe that's involves, programs at each school to create school volunteers that are doing trash duty, or, I know it's not going to be, I know that all of these things involve time and money and resources. However, I think that it's an outcome worth having, and especially in preparation of these new facilities that we want to stay in good working order. So those are my two pieces.
I wonder if some of that feedback has to do with different kind of aesthetics in classrooms, where, some classrooms teachers put in a lot of effort to make their learning environment really warm and friendly, and then others you walk in and there's like nothing on the walls. And I wonder if some fixes around that could be about, again, some professional development on making the classroom kind of what we call the third teacher. But also just along the lines of, we have a lot of programs in place for students and children, but again, the professional development part of, what do our teachers understand about children in poverty and the, cultural factors that, contribute to their success in school. And I know we do a lot of professional development training on the Common Core standards and all that, but not so much so on just the culture of the families, So that's just something to consider moving forward too. Any other comments?
My only comment was actually the trend, because the especially in school engagement, up until 2 years ago, and actually the suspension rates, that there's a trend.
Yes.
We were talking about it earlier. The trend is not good, because we were actually on a upward trajectory as far as engagement, percentage engagement, and our suspensions were and I'm wondering if we've identified reasons for this decline in I don't know, school engagement.
Yes.
Or we have.
We've been talking about it all year at the management leadership team. Yes, we've identified. That's why we have identified the actions in the LCAP to support that, and that's the training at the middle school with AHA. That's the Just Communities that we brought in. There's going to be, we have allocated funds for the middle school staff to work this summer to develop their classroom management strategies that are more positive behavior. The administrative staff participated in restorative justice training, and that will be implemented next year. So it's directly related to all professional development, professional learning. Yes.
Great.
I think the last piece that I want to say is just overall about these numbers. While I appreciate the work that goes into the report, I can't help but feel that the results, aside from a few bright spots, are incredibly disappointing. So the good news is, I guess, if there's a silver lining, is that there's much room for improvement. But I'm not interested in blame, because these are also year-old numbers. So my hope is that now, with some new direction and new focus, we really need to move the ball on this, because we're letting our students down and we're letting our community down. And I think we have a lot of strong pieces in place, and now it's just time to push on it and get clear and start to move things forward, because I don't think any parent, when shown this kind of starkness of this reality, is going to feel real great.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the hearing portion of this. So we've opened it. Is there public comment?
We don't have any public comment on this.
Okay, then I'm going to close the hearing. And thank you on that. We will vote on that at our next meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
All right.
may I just add, I wanted to publicly recognize Mari Hornback, because Mari works very closely with the county in publishing the LCAP and has done a lot of the research and works really closely with us. So I'd just like to have a special shout out to Mari and for all her good work.
All right, we're on to E7, which is the 2018-2019 proposed adopted budget presentation. Maureen Fitzgerald.
Okay, so before I get into the presentation, everybody has a budget book this year, and I'm just going to briefly talk about the budget book and what's in it. The budget book does include the full PowerPoint. It also includes, starting on page 28, some fund summaries that have been broken into categories so that you can drill down into further detail of what numbers are included in the budget by major object codes. The total general fund, unrestricted and restricted. And then we do have a Fund 07, which is our TRAN that does get combined at the state level with our Fund 01. And then on page 41, we have some fund summaries that are categorized that in a way that help better describe the monies used by function. And I mean by function, instruction, support for instruction, administration, custodians, all of those different functions, and you'll see the detail by those different pages. And that's all unrestricted dollars. And then on page 77, they start with the restricted budgets by resource. So those don't show by function, they show by resource, which is the funding source. So you'll see Title I, Title II, Special Ed, etc. And then on page 107, the multi-year projections, and they're broken into the total general fund, unrestricted and restricted. And then finally, which is the bulk of this report on page 111, because it's a big document, is the state report. And that, the last 170 pages, 150 pages, are all what make up the report that we prepare that goes to the state on all of our financials. So that's the book. Tonight, I'm going to go through the PowerPoint, and I'm not going to go through everything in the book. I'm going to go through basically the bottom line. I'm going to skip through some of the things that we've gone over at great length, both in study sessions and here at the board. And the majority of this is exactly as you saw on the May 8th board meeting that I presented the budget at. So we are going to basically skip through the slides, and we're going to go right to page 9. That just basically talks about the money, the budget itself. The revenues did change. The May revise came out the third week of May, and that May revise increased the one-time discretionary dollars to $344 per ADA. So this number is reflecting that new calculation based on the May revise of $718,513. The red number is what already exists based on the prior year one time. So this budget's only increased by $401. I've broken down the property tax dollars, which did not change from the prior presentation, but I did break it down a little more clearly so you see how we got to the $642,000 based on the original estimate of $1.089 million. You'll see the one-time impounds and the reassessed valuation due to the disasters both have to come off of that number. And then the contributions to restricted programs, again, are relatively unchanged for special ed and the restricted maintenance account. I will tell you that the state legislature has until the 15th of June to approve the budget and pass it on to the governor. And the governor has until June 30th to sign it. There are changes from these presented numbers being proposed by the legislature. However, they have not voted, and once they do vote, it will not be in time for the next budget cycle, but will be brought back for revision when we do our September revised, which is our normal process. The budget assumptions are all the same as presented previously, except for the textbooks for new ELA and science. That did increase by just under $60,000 based on the needs and the quotes that came in. So that has increased. So the budget assumptions are, as we've been reporting repeatedly for the past many sessions. The budget drivers have not changed. These are the step and column, health and welfare, pension increases, all the statutory increases that drive our budget. This has not changed from previously presented. I'll note the caveat at the bottom, the cost of a 1%. We are hoping to conclude negotiations very soon. And so once that happens, then those settlement agreements will be incorporated into our budget. But our budget currently does not have any compensation built into the numbers that you're seeing. The proposed budget program improvements have not changed. They remain the same. A middle school art teacher, an HR tech, additional Chromebooks for the high school. That's 1 grade. And I don't need to read those. Those are all the same that have been presented at the May 8th board meeting and at the prior meetings in the study sessions. And the rationale follows. And I'm now on page 14, where it talks about the budget reductions. This has also remained unchanged from previously presented. So you'll see that this includes a reduction of professional development days, staffing, and 1 non-contract teacher. There is also a reduction in here for operating expenses, and that again has not been unchanged. Those are all been incorporated in the budget document. The rationale follows on the next 3 pages. So we're going to go to page 18. That puts your estimated actuals from 17-18. That has not changed from previously reported. Adds your budget adjustments, your drivers, program improvements and reductions, positive or negative, with total expenditures of 21.4, and this is all the unrestricted general fund. And again, the caveat that negotiations, the impact of collective bargaining have not been incorporated into this document. So how does it look in a total big picture? We bring the unrestricted general fund balance of $2.8 million, add the projected 18-19 revenue, $21.5 million. We're expecting $21.4 in expenditures, which is a net increase of $80,000. That's not a lot of money, but it is it's a positive number. We haven't seen that for a while. So we're looking to end projected 18-19 ending balance of $2.8 million, which is a 10.03% reserve. I'm going to explain the reserve percentage is not unrestricted. It is the entire general fund, expenditures and fund balance. So you're not going to tie that 10.3 into the numbers up here. It's calculated on the total general fund. So breaking down the actual proposed adoption budget, and I've excluded Fund 07. That's a caveat because the state includes it. Some of the numbers may look a little different in the totals. It's very hard to read, but this breaks down the unrestricted and the restricted dollars so you can see how those compromise the total general fund. And I want to point out that the restricted dollars include special education, which is 90% of this budget. So these are not necessarily all these extra dollars we get. There are special ed and the restricted maintenance account that gets reported on that side, and both of those involve general fund dollars. Now these are some charts that our system generates, but I think they're extremely helpful to visualize. This is the total general fund, restricted and unrestricted, and the blue pie is all of our property taxes and what little state aid we get. So you can see clearly that 85% of our money is coming from property taxes. 4% are coming from federal dollars, which is very small. We do get some state dollars, 9%, and $2 local. And the majority of those local dollars are site donation monies. On page 22, it gives you the same reflection of expenses. So when you look at the blue the red, the green, and the purple, collectively, that's your salaries and benefits for all staff. And when you look at what's left, you have 4% for books and supplies, 9% for services and operating expenses, and remember that includes our utilities, our internet connectivity, our our waste management. All of those things are part of that 9, and then some transfers that are between restricted and unrestricted. And then this is actually the chart that I like the best, because this helps in a chart form show how we spend our money. Excuse me. The blue pie, 56% of our budget is spent on direct student instruction. That is in the classroom, hands-on kids. Well, not hands-on kids. Direct learning of children. That sounded very bad. And the red are instruction-related services, and those are that's going to be staff development, that's going to be curriculum development. Those are the things that have enhanced the classroom teaching. The green are pupil services. Again, all of these are direct services to kids. This is our psychs, our counselors, our speech, all in the green. And then the purple, which it says ancillary services, that's our after-school program and our athletics. 9% is general administration. That includes, there's a box over here on the left down at the bottom. On the slide, you don't see it very well. But general administration includes board superintendent, other general admin, and centralized data processing. And just know that includes our property and liability insurance, our contracts for administration of our health benefits. A lot of contracts are in there that are not necessarily like discretionary dollars. And then 11% are plant services, and that's where you're going to see our utility costs, our custodial costs, our maintenance services are all part of that. So this is, I think, a really important chart that really shows in a really simple way how we've really devoted the majority of our budget to direct student services. On page 24, it gives you a side-by-side summary of our 17-18 estimated actuals and our 18-19 budget. And it just shows you the impact of our reserves at the bottom and our ending fund balance. And it is moving in the right direction. Multi-year, 25, page 25. So we're anticipating that we end the current year in 17-18 with a 9.88% reserve. 18-19, as presented, looks to have a 10.03% reserve. And the 2 out years you'll see at 9 and 9.36. I know that I haven't seen anything like that in my 2 years here. And so this is, I think, totally indicative of building a budget that is completely dedicated to student services. It's been reprioritized to make sure that we're serving our kids and making sure that our LCAP goals are being met, and making sure that the budget has sustainability and has a positive fund balance as well as a reserve reflected in the out years. And just remember that, the first out year, you can get kind of close. The third out year, the way our state is, the way funding is, the way economics change, it almost never looks that way in that third year, 3 years from now. So while we have to reflect the 3 year, it's very hard in that third year to get something that will look like it 3 years from now. And then the last slide, I think, is really another important slide because it shows the history of our general fund reserves as we've closed our books year over year. And what you can see beginning in 10-11 is we've held a pretty strong reserve over time, with the exception of 14-15 and 15-16, where those 2 years went below 10%. And we're looking at the 17-18 year to be slightly lower than 10%. And that's right on a margin, so it could flip either way as we close. Which means that we are even in the bad times, we're being very fiscally prudent. We're trying our best to make sure when we close our books, we have managed our budgets well and not spent beyond our means. So I'm actually excited that this is probably the most healthy and sustainable budget that I've been able to see in a long time.
I really, really appreciate those pie graphs.
Yeah,
that's
they're good.
A very clear representation of where our money is going. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and congratulations to the whole team here for, I mean, this is the first year we haven't been in a structural deficit for probably 3 or 4 years. And I think that is a testament to the way you've been able to put budgets together. The way you've presented it to us in these meetings and giving us the chance to give you feedback and the community to weigh in. So I'm pleased with how this is turning out.
Thank you.
Just want to say that I just hope that this picture actually it's the real picture after everything is settled.
Again, another gigantic document which reflects the blood, sweat, and tears of many hands across our district. And I want to be mindful of all the work that has gone into this. And it's always best, obviously, if fiscally things work out in a way that lends to, greater stability over the years. However, I continue to be disappointed by the fact that this budget does not reflect some of the pillars of my work, which are equity, transparency, and achievement for all students as the guiding light of what we're trying to do. And so for that matter, I still have some real problems with the choices that have been made. As we know, behind every fiscal choice, there's a value that we're placing on something. And while this budget reflects some of my values, it doesn't reflect them, the majority of what I believe. And do I think that it can? Yes. Do I think it could have? Yes. So I think the good news is there's a foundation of strength here. However, there's still too many problems for me to support it completely.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the public hearing of the budget. So I'm going to open the hearing. Any public comment? No public comment? Okay. Close the hearing. And we will bring this back at our next meeting for a vote for adoption. Okay, we're on to item. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I also need to publicly acknowledge Maureen Fitzgerald for working so hard and leading and did she leave?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. In developing the budget and the budget book. Yeah. I think it's very clear, concise, and totally transparent of the work that we've been doing.
Well, it's the most well presented budget since I've. The budgets that Maureen's been putting together have been the best and easiest to understand and the clearest, in a long time.
I also appreciate the process that we've been through, 3 budget study sessions, public opportunities for public input, and just documents to reflect what was discussed. So I really appreciate that.
All right, we're on item F1, which is Board Policy 0410, the non-discrimination in district programs and activities, philosophy, goals, objectives, and comprehensive plans. This is the first reading. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the Board Policy 0410, non-discrimination in district programs and activities, philosophy, goals, objectives, and comprehensive plans, first reading.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I'll go ahead and introduce this because as a member of the Board Policy Subcommittee, Diana, Roger, and I have met and looked at this. You'll notice there's quite a few board policies that we're looking at. Mostly these are things that we need to adopt in anticipation of a review that we're having, a district-wide review. So this one, we felt that due to the need to pass these quickly and efficiently, we've pretty much just gone directly with the boilerplate CSBA recommendations. In terms of this specific policy, I do want to bring everyone's attention to the second page. Under the title, the heading, Non-Discrimination in District Programs and Activities, Philosophy, Goals, Objectives, and Comprehensive Plans. First of all, anyways, I'll just point this out and then perhaps there's a discussion. A state law has passed since we had our last update on this policy, which is AB 30, the California Racial Mascots Act. It actually passed January 1st, 2017, and it basically dictates as a state law certain things regarding the imagery that a school is allowed to use. With regard to that, we discussed that there could be possible ramifications for the Native American imagery that we use. Some of the particularly the mascot that we currently use, and that by passing this, there might be some ramifications along those lines. Any questions about that?
No. Okay. So you're thinking there's going to be ramifications if we don't make some changes?
Well, we're already out of compliance with a state law, which is AB 30, which is the California Racial Mascots Act. And so this is the CSBA policy that reflects current legal practice. However, by adopting this, our mascot is not in compliance with what this currently says.
Can you point me to the section you're referring to? I read through this.
Non-discrimination in district programs and activities. Second page. District programs and activities shall be free of any racially derogatory, discriminatory school or athletic team names, mascots, or nicknames. The superintendent, blah, 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 and programs, activities to ensure the removal of any derogatory, discriminating name, image, practice, or other barrier that may unlawfully prevent any individual in the protected categories stated above from accessing district programs and activities. So in reading up on this, I did some background on AB 30 and how it's kind of played out. And there are school districts that have taken the steps to change some have changed the name, some have changed the imagery, but they've made some changes to be in compliance. For example, there was a school in the desert somewhere that was the Imperial Valley Arabs. And I can't remember if they changed the name or they changed the imagery, but after the passage of this law, they were found to be out of compliance. So I just wanted to point that out so there weren't any surprises, because that was the only piece that seemed potentially challenging.
Think I'm reading AB 30, just a paragraph here. It says the existing law provides that, or it says the bill would establish the California Racial Mascots Act, which would prohibit public schools from using the term Redskins as a school or athletic team name, mascot, or nickname beginning January 1st, 2017. But it doesn't say anything about other mascots.
Yeah, it goes on to talk about the entire racially derogatory, discriminatory school or athletic team names, mascots, or nicknames. And this is just the boilerplate. This is just what CSBA recommends in order to be in compliance legally. And this part, but I think this part legally reflects, if you look at the back, what it references.
I wonder if it...
Well, maybe I can, this will be helpful. I have submitted all the questions that we've had from the board policy subcommittee to our legal counsel.
Okay.
So he's researching that right now for us. So I don't think we should go back and forth, because I think that was a really good question. And so since we met a week and a half ago, I've submitted it to our legal counsel. So he's researching it for us.
I'm personally, as a parent of a child in kindergarten, am not totally aware of our current mascot images. So I felt like this was a possibility to look at that in relation to this.
I think it'd be a good idea if Craig did a presentation on
Yes.
AB 30 before our second reading, which is what would be the final kind of vote on it, right? So would you guys be comfortable having Craig present before we vote on this?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I along those lines, I think it's important to look at what's currently being used, like to actually see the image of what's currently being used, because I don't know.
So may I make another
Yes, you may.
suggestion? I'm thinking about the timing, and we have several other large agenda items that Craig is going to be assisting us with, and so and collecting all that information between now and in 2 weeks. I think if we could go ahead and just approve the policy, because we have to anyways, it's part of, it's a requirement of our compliance, and then ask Craig to do the research over the, for the summer, and in July he can come and present, because the next meeting we have is going to be very full.
Yeah.
So would you
And-
mind just waiting a month?
Well, and then this particular board policy has to be approved this fiscal year?
Yes, regardless of what Craig says, we have to
Okay.
approve this policy.
We're talking about two things, right? One
Yes.
is the policy
Yeah.
that we have to approve,
Right.
and the other thing is whether we
It's
are
informative.
abiding by our own
Yes.
policy. So,
Yeah, which I think is
Yeah.
informative, and I think we should have that presentation. I'm just thinking about what we're going to be asking him to do for us in the next 2 weeks, and what we need to do in the next 2 weeks. I think it's a good
Yeah,
summer.
it's summer too, and I don't think
Yeah.
I agree with Diana that we need to pass this pretty much as written, because we're just trying to be in compliance in order to have this review take place. I just wanted to point this out because I didn't want the board or the community to feel like something was being snuck in, and also just to point out to everyone that we are currently potentially out of compliance with a state law. Which is what we encountered in doing the research and backup for this. So
Okay. So we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Okay. Next is board policy and administrative regulation 4119-11, 4219-11 dash. Sorry. 0.11, 4319.11, sexual harassment personnel, first reading. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve as stated.
second.
Okay, discussion?
again, this is just kind of not to say it's not important. It's extremely important, but we just need to be in compliance. And this is the fastest, most efficient way for us to be in compliance. It's just to adopt basically the CSBA recommendation.
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. F3, Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5145.7, Sexual Harassment for Students. First reading. Get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
This one was this. There was one that we slightly moved the length, like we moved something up to clarify it from the CSBA. Was
Yes,
it this
this
one?
was the one.
So, but it's a tiny, like, we felt it just improved it. It's not even worth pointing out. I don't.
No, the
think.
content remains the same. It was just the position
The
of the
order,
paragraph.
the order of how we put things. So again, this is just compliance.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, F4, Board Policy 5146, Married, Pregnant, Parenting Students. First reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Again, just boilerplate. However, in discussion of this policy, we did learn the great news, which is that we don't have any students currently at Carpenter High School who are married or pregnant, like that this applies to, which is really. Diana, do you want to?
Well, we do have 2 parents at Rincon.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
but still, it was a small number, which at least compared to my time at Carpi was a great improvement. So, minor detail, but we still have to have this policy.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, F5, Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6020, Parent Involvement. First reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
It's same thing.
Okay, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, on to Section G, Educational Services. G1, Elementary Curriculum Adoptions for Language, Arts, and Science. We're being asked to approve the purchase of Wonders English Language Arts Curriculum for kindergarten through third grade. Ready Gen English Language Arts Curriculum for fourth and fifth grade. And FOSS Science Curriculum for K through 5. The materials have been available for public view at the district office from May 14th through May 25th, and solicited feedback. No feedback has been received, and the total cost is $344,670.07, paid for with lottery and general funds. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I just want to again for a shout out to Jamie Pursoon. She is our curriculum coordinator for the elementary level, and she led the grade level chairs in this process of piloting and evaluating the language arts curriculum all school year. And it's been since 2012 in which we've had new curriculum, and when the Common Core standards were implemented, our current English language arts curriculum has been out of date. So I really applaud their efforts in ensuring that we have up-to-date materials that are aligned with the Common Core and state standards. For the science leadership team met all year to, again, determine what would be the best elementary curriculum to be aligned with the next generation science standards. And we had several teachers pilot the FOSS kits, which, interesting enough, it was several years ago, CUSD wanted to adopt FOSS kits, but they did not have enough of the financial resources. So our teachers are really excited. So they can't wait for July 1 when we can actually order these materials and that they can get their hands on them this summer, because they've already done their pacing guides and they're really excited to take a look at the curriculum. So I'm thrilled,
great.
And kudos to the grade level teams and Jamie for doing a great job. It's very exciting to have this new curriculum.
Great. Okay, we're on to business operations and facilities.
we vote on
H1 is warrants. Can I get a motion?
Did we vote on?
I move to approve the warrants from May 17th through June 4th in the amount of $294,229.97.
Second?
Okay, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
H2, donation from Coldwell Banker to Carpinteria High School Boosters Club.
I move to approve with gratitude.
Second that?
Right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Coldwell Banker, for $2,500. H3, donation from Special Olympics of Southern California to Carpinteria High School, ASB Special Events, MF Special Ed Games Toys.
Move to approve with gratitude.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that's in the amount of $1,000. H4 is resolution number 18-830, a resolution authorizing designated staff to sign contract documents with the California Department of Education. Any motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
And this is for the state preschool program, so this is a roll call.
Maureen?
I just wanted to know what the purpose of this, why was this resolution necessary?
This is annual. We do this every year. It's required by the county office and the CDE.
Okay, thank you.
Maureen?
Aye.
Rogelio?
Aye.
Jacqueline?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And I'm aye.
All right. And we moved item D11 from consent. I'm gonna put that here. That is the 2017-2018 Education Protection Account EPA Spending Plan. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve.
Second?
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I just had a question. And I've spoken with Diana about this, but I just was kind of curious. I was just hoping for a little bit more background in terms of why the monies had been geared towards, specifically towards counseling, and how the process of deciding that that's where the money should be spent, kind of I guess a little background, and also just how that process was decided, how that decision was made.
So the education protection account was established back in 12 by the voters when Prop 30 was passed. And it's basically part of your general unrestricted dollars. It's just over $400,000, and it can be it's part of the general fund pot, but you have to say what you spent that $400,000 on, and it can be spent on anything other than administration and administrators and administrative costs. So it was determined in 1213 that it would be used to the expenses designated to be coded into this account, and it's all unrestricted, would be secondary counselors and the music program. And over the years, the dollars didn't change much, but expenses went up. So now it's all just the elementary and secondary counselors. So there was a determination made in 1213, and this is an expenditure report. It happens at the end of the year when the year is over, and it really is not significant other than saying we spent our $400 on what. The $400 is not additional money or new money; it's just there. So it hasn't changed. We can designate that for any other purpose that's not administrative, but it doesn't change the fact that it's the same dollar.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's basically it's a fund that historically we've spent on counselors. It's pretty much stayed, and music, but as that expense has increased, but the monies have stayed the same, it's kind of edged out music and stayed counselors, and so we've just kept a historic precedence going there.
Right, and in the past, in some of my past, you can designate $400,000 of teachers into that account, but in the big pool of teachers, that's it's hard to pick out that little amount of money. So you usually try to identify an instructional service that's about that much money, so that it's not as hard for accounting. But it really is not relevant either way. The dollars are there, and they're part of the unrestricted general fund.
Great, thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, we're on to Measure U. Perfect timing there. So we have lots of items on this. First is I-1, contract with North American Technical Services. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item I-2, contract with Ernest Keys for professional services, DSA, Division of State Architect, Inspector of Record and Project Management. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have some points I want to bring up.
Okay.
Certain things, I think, as you do work here on the board, kind of draw your attention and bring you closer, or sort of, not. I've had questions regarding this particular contract since September of last year, 2017. And I think what's been interesting for me is it's been an invitation to kind of pursue a lot of information and get really just to gain more and more information about this particular contract and work. Unfortunately, as I've pursued questions, the questions have raised more questions, and so I'm left with many questions. And I feel obliged to bring some of those to the attention of the board, just as we consider this new contract. So some of the issues that I have may or may not be answered, but As per last year's contract, Mr. Kai's, on page 1 of his contract, has been, it says invoicing. District will be invoiced for services rendered under this agreement on a monthly basis. However, it appears that we're paying him bi-monthly. So, yeah. So, if you look at the warrants, there's a biweekly payment. So, or is that right? Bi-monthly payment. At the very least, that needs to be reconciled, I believe, and the contract should be changed to reflect the actual payment processes. That's one detail. Another detail is that I find it extremely unusual that for a contract position, we pay him a standard 40 hours per week pay. So, again, if you look at the previous contract we just passed with North American Technical Services, the contractor, and you can see it's a very odd amount, $19,750. And so that reflects more, the understanding that for a contract work is very different than regular paid salary work. Mr. Kai's invoiced us in December when the district was evacuated, and we paid him when the district was closed. So I have the purchase order for those time periods. I think those are the questions that I directly had concerns about. And then my larger concern, which I wasn't able to totally kind of nail down, but continue to have questions about, is just the extensive work that he's doing for the district. Well, two pieces. Part of the contract that he's doing for us is project inspection. The other one is project management. But he's working for us at least 48 hours a week, and that's at $95 an hour. Part of me wonders whether. Well, I believe that there's a possibility that we're overpaying him in the sense that if we continue at this rate at 10 years, $190,000 over 10 years will be $1.9 million, which is approximately 2% of the entire Measure U funds paid to one person. I don't believe the voters who approved Measure U would be happy with that information. And I believe while we do need continuous inspection, as stated by the Department of State Architects, we do need continuous inspection for our projects. I don't believe that is interpreted as having someone at our disposal for 40 hours a week, and that perhaps there could be some cost savings if the project management piece was taken away from this contract and given to someone at a lower rate, and the continuous inspection was provided maybe for the summer or the time when the project is actually being built, or perhaps there's a 5-hour hourly continuous inspection retainer that could be paid in the same way that a lawyer isn't paid 40 hours a week. We pay them for the hours that they work for us. So the last concern that I had is just the extensive work that he's done for other local districts and the chance that he could be, in a sense, double dipping by working simultaneously for other districts. While that's not against the law, and I've looked into it, it just presents a problem in the sense that we're already paying him basically $1.9 million over 10 years.
Are you making that accusation?
And
Maureen?
No, because I wasn't able to I'm not.
I really think that's an inappropriate thing to even suggest.
Can I finish?
Yeah, you can, but I want to go on the record to let you know that to infer someone, as you've characterized him as double dipping with absolutely no evidence is at the least disparaging, but could be slanderous. So I think you should really carefully check how you describe these things, your questions.
I do have on the record the fact that he has worked for various districts very close by to us, do I know the exact start dates and end dates and when he invoiced us? But I mean, I have right here, if you want to look at it, Andy, I printed out. He was the inspector of record on the Santa Barbara High Stadium, Peabody Stadium. It's a huge project, the Los Flores preschool project. Was he doing that inspection at the same time that he was, because that project's not finished, as you know. So is there a possibility that work, I don't think it's, and also it's not against the law to be, as a contractor, he can work for multiple districts at once. What I'm saying is, if we're paying someone this much, 40 hours a week, and they're also potentially getting paid from other districts, is that the person that we want to retain? So I have all this information. I'm happy to pass it down. It's all publicly available documents. I've compiled a file. I've brought this to the attention of Diana. I've tried to have these questions answered. Some of them have been, and some of them have not. For instance, I requested the DSA 5P1 or something project inspector that says how many hours per week that we're expecting them to work on the project. I was only given one of these forms. It says that he's working for us part-time, not 40 hours per week. And so obviously that appears as a problem because we're paying him 40 hours a week. And then I was told by Diana that this is because, there's actually 6 of these forms, and on each one we're, so if the goal was to answer my questions and to give me answers, I feel that I should have been given those, perhaps before today. I have not been given all the answers that I need, and I'm happy for other people to look at this if they'd like. Otherwise, there's no way that I can, in good conscience, today, with all these outstanding questions out there, certify a renewal of this contract.
Dave or Cindy, do you have any comments you want to add?
Actually, I do. First of all, we've made numerous efforts to meet with Ms. Claffey, and we've worked to get information to her. We've made ourselves available on a number of occasions, and we've not yet been able to have a time that was convenient for her to meet with us. So, and this has been going on for months. So to say that the questions aren't answered, well, maybe not, but I think if we had had a meeting, potentially they would. Those forms you're referring to are filled out every time Ernie does an inspection for a DSA job. So I would guess by now, for Carpinteria Unified, every single project, what do you think, 10 or 12 of those forms?
12.
And each of them, he's working as a part-time inspector. So there's a box for full-time, and there's a box for part-time, and they're part-time. I will also say that Ernie does spend full-time working with us. We know where he is. We know what's going on. I'm kind of surprised that you're questioning that maybe he's billing us for time that he didn't actually spend working on our jobs and that we foolishly paid it. So I would say that has not happened. The other large point to all of this is that this is a very specialized area, both in the project inspector, which we've talked a lot about, but also in project management. There's an extreme shortage of these people. If we did not have Ernie, it would take us months to find another inspector, and we'd be paying them more than $95 an hour. Project managers are billing out at more than that, too. David can talk a little bit about what has happened up at Santa Barbara Unified when they have not had people on, that they were able to obtain for their projects. They used a project management firm for a period of time. And do you want to talk about that?
Let me talk about that. We had a project management firm that came in with absolutely no qualifications, but they were a project management firm, billing out at $170 an hour for an individual that had a contractor's license but did not have a DSA's license, had a real estate certificate and an OSHA certificate, and he was getting paid $170 an hour. His boss, who was also involved, was getting paid over $200 an hour. And they had an assistant on the job that had a background in a dental office, and she was being billed out at $110 an hour. We're not going to find anybody better than Ernie for a lower amount of money. We're not going to find anybody lower than that for DSA work that has the qualifications that Ernie has. And as far as double dipping, which is outrageous, he is in our office. If he was the project inspector at Santa Barbara Stadium project, he would be required by DSA, and they are checked by the field engineers out at DSA that they're on site at least 8 hours a day. So I don't know what to say.
Thank you for that clarification.
The questions I have actually it's this. It says that in general the inspector must maintain daily inspection records. That's a full year of daily inspection records. Where are they? Has Mr. Kais been to the school board?
I'm sorry, what is your
I don't understand the
question?
Well, has he been to the school board for a school board meeting?
I think he's
Not
required
required
to do
go to school
so.
board meetings. They report to the Division of State Architect and the State Architect Engineers. That's where their daily reports go.
Where are those are publicly available?
They're available at DSA.
Okay, do other board members have?
And they're required, those reports are required by DSA to be finalized before a job even gets signed off by DSA. So if he didn't put in those reports, we would never get closure on any of our projects.
The last piece that I asked for, I asked for Diana last time we met, was also how much of general funds money was being used to pay for Mr. Kai's work. Because if you look kind of how it's presented, we're approving his contract under Measure U. And the understanding is that Measure U funds are going to be used, and that the reason we're paying him this amount and all these things is because he's a specialized DSA inspector, which, by the way, if you look under the state's website, there are other county people, Santa Barbara County people, with his inspection qualifications. He's not even listed under Santa Barbara County, so presumably we could pull someone in from out of county, as we did with Mr. Kais apparently. But the bottom line being, how much of his money is being pulled from general funds? How much of his salary is being pulled from general funds? And did we pay him when the district was closed?
Well, the reason that we paid him when the district was closed is that we did have ongoing construction projects at the high school that were being completed and required full-time on-site inspection. Items were getting covered up. Rebar was getting covered up and installed. Concrete was being poured. That's required. That's required by the state.
The district was
And as far as
closed.
the
Everything
county-
was evacuated.
The work still went on.
The work
Those were
went
the
on.
dugouts, I believe. weren't they?
Those had a liquidated damage clause on it. They were underway.
And then how much of his general funds money was used to pay him?
None.
No, that's not correct, because if you look at the warrants, it categorizes how much of his money.
There's a payment that was made to him, and it was during the emergency. So again, David and Ernie managed all of the cleanup process, which David can explain to you all the contractors we had. We spent over $500,000, and David by himself could not manage all of that. So Ernie was good enough to help with that over the Christmas break when he presumably maybe didn't need to work all that time. Maybe David can tell you some of the things that they had to do, and we could not properly charge his time to Measure U because it was for other district things, and that was an unusual event.
That was an emergency. We needed boots on the ground. We needed management out there, and we were lucky to get the contractors that we had. We were lucky to have people in the district. Every district between Ojai, Ventura, Oxnard was grabbing as many of the cleanup, quick response companies that they could. We needed people to manage it from this side, from our side, and unlock the buildings and open up and check the rooms to see if there was contamination. We were bringing in environmental consultants. We needed people here. We needed to get the job done, to get the kids back in the classroom.
So while I appreciate everyone who stepped in an emergency basis, what I'm hearing said is that no one seems to know how much general fund money was spent. And that seems incredibly inappropriate for me because going forward, I want to ensure that this contract, which is under the labeling of Measure U, and his work is being labeled as Measure U, and that we're not pulling any general fund monies to pay for any of his continued work, unless we want to add to his contract that he's also available for emergency service, which chances are there is going to be another evacuation. Are we going to pull from him again and get him in there? Because I think that it's just a part of transparency and open.
It was the cleanup.
I'm gonna give Jacqueline a chance to speak, and then Andy.
I think as a board member, we can question the use of Measure U money, the positions, whether it's appropriate, but what I feel you're doing, I hear you're doing, is that you are taking the name of a professional, a good standing man, and you're attacking him based on your research that is neither here nor there, that hasn't been corroborated by the staff, by the people who are managing this project. You have thrown out words like double dipping about transparency, whether he's being charging hours for not being there. That is highly offensive. He's not here to speak out for himself. I don't understand why you have this personal attack on a professional, of which no. This is things that you are pulling from here or there, and you're making a personal public attack on a person. Highly offensive and not appropriate.
Andy?
I would suggest that in the future, since you have been focused on this particular contract and position for what amounts to almost an entire year now, that under the guise that we're spending too much money, that you actually do some real research and find a realistic alternative if you in fact think money can be saved. But it really strikes me that you're trying to essentially drag a good man's reputation through the mud by disparaging him constantly with really no idea what you're talking about. Because you're pulling names off the internet, but you don't know if they're actually available. You don't know what they actually cost. You haven't talked to our people on the ground. So I really think that you need to do complete research, Maureen, before you come and waste everyone's time with these false accusations.
All right.
Can I respond since I was addressed directly? Michelle, can I?
Yes, quickly.
First of all, as I said, all of the research I have done has been with publicly available forms and information. So the idea that I'm pulling information willy-nilly is not the case. Secondly, this is not a personal issue. This has to do with the agenda item, a contract. This is a contractor where we pay a contract for goods and services rendered. So I think it's really important that the public understand that the contract that the district signs is the one that is completed to the letter, right? We all agree that we want to make sure that public funds are spent correctly. So this is not a character assassination or personal attack. This was a series of questions that, as I said, continue to raise more questions. And third, I didn't ask to get this involved with this particular issue. I just have a tendency to follow a curiosity and let things lead me where they may. And so I was curious about why this person kept getting paid on a bi-monthly basis, because I was trying to investigate the warrants. And that led me to the fact that he's not, according to his contract, not supposed to be getting paid bi-monthly, and he is, and that led to more questions. So I want to make it really clear for the record that I have no interest in demeaning someone's personal record or whatever. In fact, I can't judge that one way or the other because I haven't worked for this particular person. But I do think that that things should be executed fairly and transparently and to the letter of the contract. And in terms of what you said, Andy, about a possible cost-saving alternative, I did present that. I said that perhaps the way that he's billing us doesn't present as someone billing us for hours served. 40 hours a week, standard year-round, doesn't present as billing for hours served. When I've worked with contractors, like a graphic designer, or I've been a contractor myself, I get paid one of two ways. As a piece project, like, well, I'll give you $500 to do X work, or by the hour. And if we're paying someone by the hour, then they present how many hours. If you look at the invoices that he fills out for us, every week up, it adds up to 8 hours, regardless of what projects he's working on. And that's where it becomes I've never seen a contractor billed or paid like that. And that's it.
So right now we have a motion and a second. So let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay?
Nay.
Okay, thank you. It's 3-2. I3, employment agreement for Measure U Facilities Project Coordinator. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay?
Nay.
3-2. I4, contract with JR Inspections for Aliso and Carpinteria High School. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? I5, contract with AE Group Mechanical Engineers, Inc. for Carpinteria High School.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I6, purchase of IP phone system for the district.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Any discussion?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just, and I've already brought this to the attention of Diana, but just was hoping in the future to see sort of a grid of the bid system, because it's not clear. While it does sound like the bid process was engaged, there's no way to tell that from this information. So just it would be helpful for me, and I think for all of us, for the public, to see that we are following the bid procedure for large-scale projects to the letter.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. On to personnel. J1, personnel summary. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Hold on one second. We're looking at J1 right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is one. Yeah. So I've already brought this up, but I think because the instructional assistants, it was a restructuring of that entire piece. This grid or spreadsheet doesn't clearly identify what's happening. In the sense that for our other positions, we say, oh, they had this many hours and they've changed it to this. Like, for instance, change in assignment, Amy Holmstrom increased from 0.6 to 0.8. So I'm just wondering why that wasn't done for the...
Let's try not to bring up names, personnel names, when we're talking.
Okay, excuse me. For this position, which is not listed in any other way besides their name, but the position above the instructional assistants is listed. Do you see where I'm talking about? Does anyone else see where I'm talking about? The increase from 0.6 to 0.8? Right. So as a board member, we're able to understand the choice that we're being asked to make.
It's my understanding that based on seniority, they were offered positions at that FTE level, and that's where they were placed. So it was regardless of if it was an increase or a decrease, it was what they chose. Is that correct, Diane?
The person that is above the list that of the IAs is actually a certificated position, so it's not included in the IA restructuring and reassignments. And because there was such a big overhaul of this sort of whole area, this program, that's why it's not listed as being, it went from 5 hours to 6 hours or so on. It was done completely different. It wasn't a replacement of positions. It was a elimination and then reinstatements.
The issue, though, and I think it's a big issue, is that this has been a very disruptive process to the community, the entire community. I mean, I'm talking about the teachers, but the staff members affected, but also the parents and students who have known these people. Some are changing school sites, I believe, and it's been a very challenging process for the people involved. From this personnel record, you would hope for some clarity. I was hoping for some clarity in terms of answering simple questions from the community, like how many positions were eliminated. I can't tell that from this. How many people lost, how many instructional assistants changed hours or lost hours or gained hours.
Summary, though. It's not.
Right, but why is it that we're?
Well,
do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
so my point being,
we can't actually discuss personnel. We can't say to somebody, "Oh, this instructional assistant changed hours." That's
obviously
their private.
But all we're doing is approving the changes. But if the changes aren't clear, my point is, I think for such a large item, that it would have been helpful to have a whole agenda item on what's going on with the instructional assistants, or at the very least something here that says, because I know you know that 23 students, I think that there's a summary given to us. Don't know where exactly.
We shouldn't be talking to the community about who's got a job and who doesn't have a job.
In terms of how many people resigned through this process, how many people resigned, how many people were laid off, how many people retained the same amount of hours, and how many people increased hours. I'm not talking about people in terms, I'm talking about positions changing. Because our only ability is to approve or not approve the personnel changes as presented to us. If they're not presented to us in a clear way, it's really hard to make that decision.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, 3-2. The board is, for J2, the board is asked to approve the first reading of the Human Resources Technician job description.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Okay, 4-1. Right, board communications. Andy?
I just got to say that the graduation on all the promotions were fantastic, but the graduation at the high school on Friday was absolutely wonderful. I mean, from the crowd coming in to the students walking out in the field, the speeches that were given. Diana, a very nice speech. And then there were no beach balls, which was really a big pet peeve of mine. And then to top it all off, we had a skywriter, which was just absolutely fantastic. It was really neat. I mean, it's a very special class, and there were some. It was great to. It's always wonderful to see the big smiles on their faces as they walk across the stage and get their diplomas and it's a good reminder of why we have all volunteered to do what we're doing. So it was really, really fun, and I just wish everybody a happy summer.
Jacqueline?
Yeah, I want to thank Diana for leading us through this year. We're going through a lot of changes. Changes are hard, I'm going through hard changes as a parent, so I understand parents out there being concerned and skeptical, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. But I thank you for your strong leadership, and keep on moving us towards the right direction. So thank you so much, and happy summer, everyone. And thank you for all the staff too. Thank you.
Rogelio?
Yes. First of all, I would like to congratulate everyone, every student, every teacher. Great success, and that's hundreds, thousands of students that actually have been achieving a lot. And that's something that I'm thankful for. And also, I'm going to be this in high spirits. I mean, because this is what we need. The path has not been easy. There's been some thorns around the path, but I just hope that finally we can all reach an agreement tomorrow on the bargaining process. And because I have been on the negotiating room for 14 days, nothing is easy on life, nothing. And for the first 13 days, it's been hard, no agreement. And I have been saying this since 2017. Please, let's all agree. Let's not get into legal action. It's very expensive and it's toxic. And actually, we all have seen that. Attorneys are actually the clear winners on all of this. And I don't know about the union's finances, but I know that the school district cannot afford to get into legal expenses. Otherwise, that it will be a mistake for both sides. So I just hope that we can all get along. And last Thursday, I finally saw some light at the end of the tunnel. No, I mean, actually, it wasn't a train. It was the light of hope. And that's one of the ways that I have felt pride and belonging to the school board. That's what we need, an agreement, and from the bottom of my heart, I hope that this can be achieved tomorrow. And I'm optimistic about that, and I thank you all. Thanks.
Maureen?
Yes, thank you. I just, I think the end of the year, the last day of school, what you see, and at least at the elementary levels, maybe not so much at the high school level, is you see parents rushing into the school on the last day with their arms filled with gifts. And I don't know an elementary teacher that doesn't try to make a card or do something to thank the people who work with their kids every day, who spend more time with their children than parents actually do. And it's phenomenal. From a personal point of view, what I witnessed as well during the last 2 days of my daughter's school experience was a staff member who was weeping and so upset and visibly moved that she could not work for the students. And it was not happy tears. It was tears of confusion and frustration and disappointment. And I think there were many instructional aides who were perhaps in a similar boat. I was hoping tonight that in the personnel report that there would be more clarity for them as they approach summer to get to understand the changes that were happening in their kind of job category. And I've spoken with Diana to try and get clarity around that. And I just want to restate for the record that 23 employees increased their work hours, 5 stayed the same, 7 were reduced voluntarily, and 10 were laid off. And 1 resigned to move out of state. And this is from a public statement that Diana gave me in a meeting. So I hope that that clarity allows people to move forward. I'm sorry to the people who were affected in whatever actions I had that might have affected them. And, as our public statement says, the district hopes that layoffs of this scale are unnecessary in the future, and I think we all feel that. I hope the summer gives time of healing for those people, but I saw personally what effect that had on our staff, and I felt it, and I was moved by it, because these are people that genuinely love and care for our students. And so my hope is that we can keep that reaction front of mind as we make large-scale changes in the future. Thank you.
I'm just going to echo the just joy around the graduations and promotions. I was able to attend Rincon and Carpinteria High School, and just both very moving, very different ceremonies, but the smiles on the students' faces, and then the parents and families and friends and the audiences just makes it all worth it, I guess. I also, it is the end of the school year, and as a educator myself, every year I say, oh, this is the craziest school year ever, but this was really the craziest school year ever. It felt like 2 school years in one, the pre-fire and the post-fire. But again, the commitment and dedication of our staff, classroom staff and administrative, some districts didn't bounce back so easy, but ours did pretty well, and came back, got back to work, focused, and continued to make plans. And so I think that's a real testament to, again, the dedication of our professionals. So I want to thank you guys for that. So. Okay, so board calendar, do we have anything that we need to add between now and our next board meeting? No? Okay. Future agenda items, we still have restorative justice practices, a budget subcommittee, and then I just added a presentation on AB 30 when we get to it. Is there anything else? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.